Hey everyone, welcome back to the 235 Film Podcast. You are listening to episode 2 of season 2. This season we are exploring 10 classic sci-fi films from the 20th century, and today we have the honor of giving our thoughts on what many consider to be the pinnacle of the genre itself, Stanley Kubrick's 2001 A Space Odyssey. Brett and I were a bit nervous coming into this episode because of the grandiosity that accompanies this film, but once we shook the nerves off, it really became two friends talking about one of their favorite films of all time. So enough chit-chatting, let's get right to it.
All right, here we are. Another episode.
Here we are.
Taking it right back. Hitting it back one time. As the kids say. Right?
Yeah, this is episode 2 of
season 2.
Our sci-fi. Yeah.
The old 2 for 2.
Sci-fi season, I guess.
Sci-fi, classic sci-fi.
Classic sci-fi, 20th century sci-fi, whatever you want to call it. It's our second season, and here we are.
Grassroots sci-fi.
Episode 2. So this episode we're talking about 2001 A Space Odyssey, as you well know from last episode. Last week we actually mentioned that this is going to happen. I've actually been looking forward to today.
Yeah, me too. I think out of all of the films that we have lined up for season 2,
this is your most excited?
This one I'm probably most excited about.
That's interesting because there's a lot to go still.
I know, but
like this is it for you. It's the peak. Everything's downhill from here.
Everything's downhill from here. Well, we had a strong climb up to get to this point.
That's true. That's true.
Working through PO
all of Denis
apes.
Villeneuve's,
Yeah.
And then
Planet of the Apes was a challenge.
It was a struggle. You know what's funny? I was looking back at some of the info between this and Planet of the Apes. Planet of the Apes was released in February, only in one theater, and then its wide release was on the same day as 2001's wide release.
Oh, really?
And the same exact day, April 3rd, 1968.
That's crazy.
It's
what
nuts.
Time?
I don't know, but like imagine going to the theater and not knowing like what to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's kind of I watched the trailer for both of them. I probably still would have picked A Space Odyssey, but still.
Yeah. Yeah. Think about how people were thinking then, though. You know, like.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like A Space Odyssey is even still a reach for today.
Yeah,
you know
that's for sure. But then again, like there were so many people that hated on 2001 back in the day when it first came out. So
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying like even now there are still people who are like
hating on it.
Like yeah, but then I'm sure it was like, dude, what even is this? Like, what am I watching right now?
Well, see, that's what's interesting to me because if you were a moviegoer back then, because the trailer for 2001 is very, very much in the same vein as 2001 itself. It feels very vague and so watching that versus watching a Planet of the Apes trailer, I'm maybe as a moviegoer back then I might have been inclined to go to see Planet of the Apes first. Charlton Heston's in it, he was a big name, big draw.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like an approachable concept too. Like I mean it's pretty expository in the whole sense of like you know their whole film. 2001 is not that way. It's very like obviously we understand kind of the whole overarching theme of life or whatever, but like I mean it's very artistic, very like Kubrick for lack of a better word. Like
but like this movie kind of made that Kubrick itself, the name made it like this thing, you know. This is the movie that really did it for him. Yeah, I don't know. I might have even walked away as a moviegoer back then thinking that Planet of the Apes might have been better than The Space Odyssey. I don't know.
Could you imagine? Dude, could you even imagine?
Because, I mean, if you look at it today and, like, 2001 has the legs to just keep going. I can see, like, 50 years from now, this movie's still, like, going strong. Like, I don't see it ever stopping. Whereas Planet of the Apes, I mean, like no one talks about Planet of the Apes anymore. Come on.
No. But yeah, this is like foundational cinema that we're talking about right now.
Right.
Not just in the sci-fi genre,
exactly.
But yeah.
I agree.
This is like one of the 10 like pillars of cinematic history or whatever. You know what I mean?
I agree with you on that one.
And maybe that's why it's kind of got me hyped a little bit, because of its influence in the entirety of the like industry, like not just sci-fi, but everything that it has an influence on. Like you said, the way it paved the way for Kubrick's work, like you can watch any of his films and see inspiration from this, you know what I mean? Whether it be structure, outline, you know, how the story's built, to cinematography, how shots are framed out and whatever. Like, I mean, obviously we don't see too many more like space themed films from him, but
but I mean, even what was his prior film to this? Dr. Strangelove. I don't know now. I can't remember.
Yeah, it was, because the whole diving right into it, when we go from that 20-minute intro scene of like the beginning of society, and like humanity's realization of weapons, and the ape throws that bone up in the air, you know?
Yeah.
And that bone turns into, like, it kind of fades into the spaceship.
Yeah.
That spaceship is actually like a nuclear weapons launch system.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it, like, there was supposed to be more attention on that fact. I was reading about this, but because Dr. Strangelove was so recent and like that was his prior work, he didn't want that same theme to be carried over identically into the next film. So it was kind of more elusive as just a spacecraft. But that it was called Starchild something, like that whole like nuclear launch facility or whatever. That was that I thought that was pretty interesting too. But yeah, I think he didn't want too many like blurred lines between his prior work and this one, which is again a very Kubrick thing. Like, yeah, there's similarities in like structure and stuff like that, but none of his work is like at all thematically connected. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's true.
Shining, he Clockwork Orange, Eyes Wide Shut. 2001.
He definitely chooses very different.
It's like themes. A pinata. Yeah. You have absolutely no idea what's going to fall out.
You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
It's like a box of chocolates.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We'll save that for our Tom Hanks season.
Sure. Or Robin Wright. So
man.
What I thought was really interesting is obviously coming into this movie, this watch, I don't know how many times I've watched this movie, but coming into this watch, I knew that there's not a lot of dialogue. But I was surprised to like find out there's only 40 minutes of dialogue in this movie.
Yeah, 80. Yeah, absolutely. That's super
crazy.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. You know what I love about that? I was actually thinking a lot about that in the same vein that you were. I've watched this movie a trillion times. I don't even know. But like, I've never thought about it that way. Watching it now, the lack of dialogue adds so much like texture and like weight behind the concept of space in general.
Yeah.
You know? I feel the same way about WALL-E. I know that sounds stupid, but like the first like half hour of WALL-E, there's almost no dialogue. And I think that's like pouring gasoline on the fire of that whole like loneliness aspect of just the I love space.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I personally love space. I'm infatuated with the concept of space.
Same.
And it's kind of like the ocean for me in the sense of like, I love that we will never fully understand what space has to offer because of this is a great segue for me to introduce our guest today.
Oh boy.
Neil deGrasse Tyson is with us. Yeah. It was a stretch. I know. Neil, go ahead and say hello to the audience here. We have a bad connection with him. We'll just keep moving. We'll keep moving without Neil today. But this isn't a space podcast anyway, so we'll save that for him.
I forgot what.
Anyway,
what you were saying about the dialogue for sure. Like the lack of dialogue definitely like accentuates the fact that like you're in space. You know, the tagline from Alien, which we'll actually cover later on this season, is that in space no one can hear you scream, which is like so. This is another thing that was really interesting to me. I'm totally getting ahead of myself here, but like that scene when Dave is trying to get back into the Discovery, and he like has to exit through the pod.
Open the pod bay door, please, Dave. Yeah.
Right, but he has to exit through the pod and get back into the Discovery, and there's no sound whatsoever. And then he's able to close the Discovery doors, the emergency doors, and then like a sound all of a sudden comes back in. Yeah, and it's like so. I feel like it would be accurate, and as far as I read, like this is one of the most accurate space depictions up until that time.
Maybe this is just me. I think that there's more to space besides just the atmospheric vacuum aspect. Like I think that Dave would have died. Like,
well,
he wouldn't have made it.
100%.
So unfortunately, Dave didn't succeed. Everything else is a dream sequence after that.
I don't. Well, maybe I can't think of what movie it was.
No, it's not.
Hold on, I can't think of what movie it was, but there was a movie where, bro, Interstellar. Don't they do that? The guy cracks his. Oh, but they're inside an atmosphere technically, right?
Right.
So I guess.
Also in because it's like whenever the helmet cracks in Interstellar, it sounds like that water vacuum from the dentist's office. You know what I'm talking about? Oh my gosh! All right. Anyway, I feel funny.
I feel like Interstellar always pops up in our episodes.
Well, it's a sci-fi. To segue off one thing you said, it's actually a personal goal of ours to be able to introduce the Alien tagline in every episode until we get to the Aliens episode. So, next episode we're talking about Solaris, and we're gonna find a way to insert that. So get ready. One interesting fact that I found out was coming off that scene with the pod bay door thing. There's a lot of heavy breathing. In that. Kubrick did all those sounds himself.
That's cool. No, I didn't know that
already. Yeah. So any sound that happens as breathing while they're in their astronaut suits. Yeah, he did all of those breathing sounds.
That's so cool.
It's cool, but also it's kind of creepy to like imagine Stanley Kubrick like because it's like 25 consecutive minutes of astronauts heavy breathing. So
you know what? To keep up the theme of Interstellar, I believe I don't know if it was Interstellar. Okay. He's like an athlete, basically.
Hey, another thing I noticed is that they must have shot the movie and then he did the sounds because he's like, what? I can just imagine him watching because once Dave starts to get tense, he goes like this.
Yeah.
He's actually pretty good.
No, 100%. I didn't know that he did that, but to keep up the theme of Interstellar, I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure if it was Interstellar or Tenet, but I'm pretty sure that it was Tenet. I think I read this about Tenet. That Ludwig actually got Christopher Nolan's breathing and made it a part of the soundtrack.
I think it would have had to have been Tenet because
only did Tenet. Christopher Nolan. Anyways, cool. I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you want to,
maybe it was like the reverse sounds.
Maybe, yeah. I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you ever want to become a film auteur, you have to incorporate your breathing into your film somehow.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
We'll see if Dune has any breathing from Denis Villeneuve.
I'm sure it will.
Hans, the ball's in your court.
If you want to become one of the greats, if you want to become foundational director of 21st century cinema, you've got to breathe for your actors. Anyway, so I thought that was super interesting.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about the film itself?
Like thematically?
Thematically, or like, I mean, even if we want to talk about the opening montage.
On my notes here, all I have down is Kubrick breathing, so I don't know. Like, I've kind of extended myself further than my... No, I'm kidding.
Don't worry, I got plenty of notes.
I think that the montage of humanity understanding what violence and weaponization as a concept looks like is really well done. I think that's, I mean, obviously that's the whole concept of the movie, right? Like that's
evolution.
Evolution, but not just evolution of humanity. It's the evolution of violence. Like
yeah, I think violence is a theme. I think I wouldn't totally agree with you. I think it's evolution in more than one aspect, right? Not just like evolution from apes to humans, but like evolution in technology, evolution in violence as well. But I think the violence portion of it, outside of that, the chapter of Dawn of Man, I think it more has to do with Hal, right?
Yeah, but it may not be violence necessarily, physical violence for him, but think about his evolution as a computer, as a machine, his machine learning process. As soon as he gained independent thought, immediately it turned into an opposition. Like Hal started beginning to function for himself, and immediately the people who were working with him were working against him. Which was true. Yeah. Like they were, and maybe that's situational, but at the same time, like, I don't know. It was so easy for him to, the other guy's name was Frank, right? Frank.
I think so. Yeah.
He killed Frank, which how, I don't know, but he did do it. He killed him with his words, I guess.
I was a little bit confused with how Frank died, because Hal took control of the pod, but Hal couldn't take control of Dave's pod.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Yeah, so I was a little bit confused. I will say that I was surprised in this viewing to see how short or how little of Hal we actually see compared to the length of the film. I
blew my mind.
I didn't remember that it was that. It wasn't that, like, it's not the entire film basically. I almost crazy, completely forgot the whole beginning portion of the film, like after the Dawn of Man chapter, but like with Dr. Floyd, that whole section, like I almost forgot that.
I gotta say, yeah, that is the only part where I'm kind of like, okay, like, what's truly the purpose here? Like right. You've taken something here and inserted half an hour of our time to get to a point that could have been explained in 5 minutes.
It definitely could have been explained in 5 minutes. I agree that this is probably the slowest portion of the film for me. But I think it's just Kubrick, like, couldn't let up, you know? I think if Kubrick had done so much exposition right there just to explain that in 5 minutes, it would have put a major blow into the film, you know what I mean? Like a dealt a major blow into the film.
Yeah, I can get that.
So I think in the spirit of what he was doing with this film as a whole, he did what he did with that whole sequence. But which I'm fine with. I think Floyd has some things to offer the audience as far as like how the government is dealing with this situation of finding this monolith, this alien thing that they think is an alien thing.
I guess there's the concept there of I mean, it's kind of like the Ad Astra concept of like he went through so many levels until he actually figured out what was going on. You know what I mean? So I guess there was a lot of exposition there as far as like how important the mission was for Dave and Frank. Yeah. You know?
It's funny you mentioned Ad Astra. I'm just going back a little bit from what you were saying. It's funny you mentioned Ad Astra because watching 2001 this time, I gained more respect for Ad Astra.
1000%.
Because I was not a big fan of Ad Astra when I watched it the first time. Second time I liked it a little more, but this time I feel like I could see more of the connections between 2001 and Ad Astra, or at least what who made Ad Astra? Was it James shoot, I can't remember his name.
It was
I'm not sure.
It was the same guy who's doing the Batman, isn't it?
No. I don't think so. James Gray, there we go. So seeing Ad Astra, I can see, seeing 2001 now, I can see what James Gray was trying to go for with Ad Astra, and I commend him because he pretty much hit the visual motifs and like even the atmosphere of that film really resembles what 2001 is going for and what Kubrick was trying to do.
And the Moon Pirates in 2001 and the Moon Pirates in Ad Astra are like identical almost. Like it was so it's crazy how well he was able to fashion the Moon Pirates 50 years later so similarly to the.
But anyways, I think overall 2001 really kind of it blends really well together. I think Kubrick made these what I can tell, it's 4 different segments. That's what it feels like: the Dawn of Man, the Moon site, and then there's HAL 9000, and then there's the ending with Dave pretty much in the monolith from what I could tell.
Dude, wow.
Yeah.
Like that is crazy to me. That like I'm telling you, I've seen this movie 1 trillion times, and the ending still hits so hard for me.
Yeah.
Like, but that is Interstellar 1000% in my mind. like what I see happening on screen is what Matthew McConaughey's character was living through the what did they call that thing? It was the Tesseract. Living through the Tesseract, dude. As he's that whole cutscene where Dave is traveling through reality. It's the same concept as like, not only is he traveling through reality, but he's also experiencing time all at once. And like he's looking at himself as a middle-aged man, and that middle-aged man is seeing himself in his deathbed. You know what I mean? Like that whole concept of people like Christopher Nolan and Stanley Kubrick understand time better than any of us.
Yeah.
I'm serious. Yeah. I think that you and I are currently living in a 10-et scenario. like I believe that. I believe our friendship is moving 2 directions. You're on the forward move and I'm moving backward. And this is just the moment where our paths intercross. I think that these folks really understand it. And I know I'm giggling now, but I'm serious. Like seeing that, I believe that time is like that. It's not linear. It's like just everything is happening all at once.
I don't know that I could totally agree with you there, but
well, you're not a scientist.
Neither are you. Well, hey, I did want to since we're at the end, let's just talk about the end. Let's just do it.
We're all over the place.
I know, but since we're here, let's just do it.
Yeah. Okay. Where should we start? I have a question quick before we get started. Hal died. He removed all of his memory cores or whatever.
Well, he removed his memory. He didn't die.
But like the concept of learned Hal was perished.
Not perished. It was just removed.
Okay. All right. I got you.
Right. Like it's still there. Whatever. He didn't like take those tapes and burn them or anything.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
The reason I say that is because there's a sequel, 2010, The Year We Made Contact, and in that film, which I watched this morning, and it's not a bad movie by any means, but it almost undoes what Kubrick did with this because it explains almost everything.
There's books.
There's books, but here's the thing. So his history story, right? Let's just go back. We'll talk about the ending later. Kubrick was done with Dr. Strangelove, and he just had like this whole fascination with space, wanted to make a space movie, and then he started looking around for a science fiction author so that he could write the screenplay with. Finally landed with Arthur C. Clarke, and they wrote the screenplay together. So it wasn't the screenplay was based off of a couple different amalgamations of Arthur C. Clarke's short stories. But like Kubrick kind of helped him piece it together. So they were together on that. It's funny actually because
Dune was the same way, right? Like Dune.
No, Dune.
David Lynch.
No, not at
Frank
all.
Herbert.
What the hell,
dude? Absolutely
no.
Yeah. Dude,
wait, are you serious about this? No,
Yeah.
dude, you're wrong about that. Dune came out in, if I'm not mistaken, the book was released in the 60s, and the movie came out in 84, 85.
What, you think somebody who's 20 years older can't?
We'll talk about Dune when we'll talk about Dune. Yeah, Dune was written in 65. The movie came out in 84. We'll talk about Dune when we get to Dune because I really like the history there. But back to 2001. So it's funny because the way they were going to do it is that the book was going to come out at the same time as the movie for 2001. And in the screenplay, it would be written by Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke. And then the book would be written by Arthur C. Clarke with Stanley Kubrick so that they can kind of give respect to their own mediums.
Sure.
But like the book just ended up having a lot more detail. Arthur C. Clarke just ended up explaining a lot more in the book than the movie does because that's just the way things are with books. Especially science fiction, you end up like explaining everything out.
Right. Yeah.
So the movie came out first and then the book came out. So if you want questions or answers to 2001, you could totally just read 2001 and find those answers. But Arthur C. Clarke continued to write novels, and I think he wrote 4 sequels.
He did 2 more, right?
I think it was 4 sequels, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really?
No, I think I'm getting that mistaken with Dune probably, but it was a couple sequels. Yeah. So because there's more than one sequel, that's for sure. So 2010 was written, and then later they went to Stanley Kubrick to ask him to make 2010 in the 80s, and he's like, no. No way.
Yeah. Dude, I wouldn't either.
But the guy who made 2010 actually went to him and asked him, like, asked for his blessing, him and Arthur C. Clarke, and he got it.
Oh, really?
He got it, but it was more like Kubrick was like, do whatever you want. It wasn't like, yeah, do this. You have my blessing. It was more like, I don't care what you do. Do it if you want. But yeah, no, I watched it this morning because I was a little bit interested in kind of seeing what it was like, and because I've never watched it, and it explains so much, and it's like I don't think I wanted that.
Oh no,
I don't think I wanted it all to be explained away. So I was a little bit bummed out that I watched it, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I don't think I
won't even tell you. I'm not gonna tell you because
I cherish the ambiguity of this too much.
Yeah. So let's talk about the ending then. Because
okay. Oh, Mike, what I was asking before we got sidetracked was that all happened, but I don't actually understand how he got into that warp of
right. I don't totally understand it either. I think it has to do with like when he came into the monolith. I don't know what that warp exactly represents. And I think the only downfall, the biggest downfall I can see in this film is whenever Kubrick uses that montage in the warp with putting in like those color meshed versions of Utah and Arizona. Like I don't feel like they really go together. I don't feel like it complements the rest of the vision in that warp.
Where is Dave from?
I don't know. Where is he from?
I don't know either, but what I gained from that was Dave was experiencing his own personal reality and other realities simultaneously.
That could be.
I feel like
yeah, that's a good way to.
That was my interpretation of it.
Way to see it. Yeah, that's for sure. That makes it make more sense.
Have you seen? There's a movie out right now with
New Mutants.
What's that guy's name? No, Jesse Eisenberg and Imogene Poots.
Imogene Potts. Did you say that wrong on purpose? Okay. I had a hard time realizing what you were saying.
It's Vivarium.
Oh, it's not out. It's on
It's out, dude. It's out. It's out. If it's not in, it's out. Why are you correcting me on this?
Normally when you say out, it's in theaters.
You have the ability to watch it right now. Right now, you have the ability to watch it.
I was thinking of movies in theaters. That's why I said New Mutants. I haven't watched it yet, but I do. It's on Prime, right?
Yeah,
I want to watch it.
I think it's an Amazon movie. at the end, I don't know why I'm saying this. Spoiler alert. At the end, there's a moment where that character, Imogene Poots, character, like experiences 4 or 5 realities. And it's like the same type of montage where each reality is like color overlaid like this. And it's like weaving back and forth between her personal reality and the alternate realities that are happening in other people's lives as well. So what I gained from this watch of it was like, there's something in Dave that is being accessed by that being of the monolith that's like projecting, you know, his personal life along with the other realities. You know, because I what I believe is happening is that monolith is giving him true sight, like, you know, like some sort of, it's kind of like a rival in the sense of, you know,
the language is unlocking
so much subjugation, because like I'm literally pulling all of this out of thin air.
Is it out of thin air, or is it out of somewhere else?
Let me tell you guys what 2001 is trying to tell us. I feel like that happens too often on this show.
This is what actually happened in this movie.
So this
is what Stanley Kubrick was trying to say.
We got a direct line, and we know this is all right. Anyway, I believe that's what I think. I think that Dave accessed like some sort of, the monolith was just like beaming in reality to it. You know?
Man, I really regret watching 2010 because like it's totally.
Don't tell me.
I know.
Does it explain where the monolith came from?
Yeah, sort of. Not really, but dude, I'm assuming that the rest of the sequels get more into that. But okay, I'm not gonna get too into detail. But what I think happens, I'm trying to like separate 2010 from my mind right now.
And just give like organic
thought.
Like
like what I actually think about 2001. Man, that's hard. But
yeah, it's tough, isn't it?
Because like I was always so confused about the whole baby thing. You know what I mean?
Dude, that makes the most sense, I think.
In what way? I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, it's like you know what? Maybe it makes sense now because we've had so much flood of different sci-fi stuff give us different things like this. But like, I see that as like the circle of life in some sort of like weird scientific, almost Lovecraftian way. Like this monolith is taking what's left of Dave's dying corpse. And have you ever seen Transcendence?
Oh my god, you love that movie.
Oh baby, I love Transcendence.
I can't stand that movie.
It's kind of like that, where like you know, Johnny Depp's character is on his deathbed or whatever, but they take what's left of his consciousness. I can't believe we're talking about
Transcendence in the same breath as 2001. There's no comparison, dude.
Yeah, it's basically the same.
No, that movie's trash. Anyway, that movie. Hold on, before we go on, Transcendence is so bad that the director never worked again. like,
yeah, but.
And Christopher Nolan, because
as a
he used to. Okay, this is his first movie directing, Transcendence, and Christopher Nolan gave him he was actually Christopher Nolan's DP for a long time.
Are you telling me this or the
people?
I'm
telling the people this, but also you.
Okay.
But here's my thought, because he did a lot of good work as a DP. He was great as a director of photography, and then he went and made this movie Transcendence, and Christopher Nolan never took him back as a DP. So in my head, Christopher Nolan was like, "No, you're a director now." Like, you wanted to leave me. You put me in the shit, and now I have to go find a new DP.
Yeah, exactly. And the last thing I want to do is say my DP is the director.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah. No, you might be right. No, I think that montage that we saw shows us the true power of the monolith, like that this all powerful being, for lack of a better word. And I just think now that thing had access to like human DNA, it was able to create life.
Right. Do you
and that's how
do you
I
think the monolith?
And I think that
go
I think.
ahead, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
sorry.
you go ahead.
No, you go.
No. I
no,
please.
you go. Please.
Okay. Do you think that the monolith is the actual extraterrestrial being?
I do.
That's interesting.
I do think that.
I never saw it that way.
Some sort of ship. I think that it is, because I think that in the beginning during the dawn of man sequence, the beings, the apes, are so like, they're so like put off by it. Like I think that shows us that there's a presence that comes along with it. Then on the moon, it's like that whole sequence. I believe that. Now I don't know if 2010 gave you some new outlook into the fact that it's not.
It didn't really go either way, really, as far as I could.
I believe that the monolith is like it's like dark matter in a sense of like it's matter with intelligence.
It's interesting. The way I always thought about the monolith itself is that it's a screen, kind of like what we're doing here. Like I'm talking to you through the screen and we're communicating. I always thought of it as that, like it's one side of the screen where the extraterrestrial beings or whatever you want to call them, are looking out from that screen into this new world. And then I always thought that the extraterrestrial beings, especially towards the end, were either like outside of that room looking in, or they were in that room with Dave, because like we get a sense, Kubrick does this really well. We get a sense of like there's somebody else here, and Dave even feels that, like he looks out, and then like all of a sudden he's looking at himself in the future, and then he is that person in the future, and his newer self is gone or whatever. So but I always felt like maybe Kubrick was trying to like maybe say a little more with like that whole atmospheric being of like something else being there with him. I don't know. I always thought that like that whole sequence at the end where he's in that room, that grand room, was like these extraterrestrial beings studying this human that they had contact with for the first time. And then,
dude, you know what it could be? Yeah.
No. What?
It could be the concept of like the Tesseract type thing. Like he's looking into it and seeing time. You know what I mean? So like maybe he looks into it and knows that he's seeing himself. Like that's a stretch, I feel. But at the same time, I feel like time in that chapter of the film was very evident of like, I feel like he was crossing the threshold of time and like moving along it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe that's what the monolith, the whole purpose of it is like,
yeah,
almost like a portal.
Yeah, I could see that,
to see through.
Because I said, like I think that whole portal sequence when he's going through that like light tunnel or whatever, is him entering the monolith in a way. So I could see that as well. I'd be curious to see how Arthur C. Clarke like rounded off the novel. See how he actually ended that novel. Not for clues of like what it actually means, but just to even see. No, I haven't. I haven't
either.
I don't think I will though, because I don't want to be spoiled more than I already am.
Yeah. Did you read The Shining?
Yeah, long time ago though. Long time ago.
How did it? Have you seen The Shining?
Yes, so many times.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm giggling because I love that movie.
Hey, does he have any original work? Like
Arthur C. Clarke?
Has he done any? No.
Who?
Stanley Kubrick. Did he do
like
any,
not adaptations?
Yeah, A Clockwork Orange was a novel too,
was.
Right?
I believe it was by. Was it Ray Bradbury? No, but it was somebody along that line.
You're thinking of
somebody along that line of thinking. 1984. Yeah. No, Fahrenheit 451.
Fahrenheit 451. 1984 was Orwell.
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know if any of his work is original. Well, maybe. What about
Full Metal Jacket?
Full Metal, or I was thinking even Eyes Wide Shut. I wonder if Eyes Wide Shut was a book.
Dude, if that's his original work.
He's got some weird shit in his mind.
and figure out what is going on. I would hope that any of the other ones would be organic thought. I'm gonna make a movie now. I've got the perfect idea.
I feel like you could say the same thing about like Clockwork Orange. Though, like that movie can be very well. Then he's got something to say about that, though. There's some. Every film he has got something to say about, though. Whatever, dude. I think we should just do a Stanley Kubrick season down the line and really go into it. So,
yeah.
But anyways, moving on.
Dude, this movie, even today, visually stunning.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think that today's standards, even, it holds up.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree completely. I love that match cut from the Dawn of Man into the spaceship.
Yeah.
It obviously there's a ton of like iconic match cuts throughout cinematic history. Like off the top of my head, I could think of like Lawrence of Arabia. What else? There's so many. A Psycho. Like there's so many different ones you can pick from. If you want to go even like more recently, Scott Pilgrim is basically all match cuts. If you want to think about it that way,
right? Yeah.
But that one like really stuck out to me when I was watching it this time. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, that whole thing too is like all of the other transitions from chapters. Like you said, this film is very evidently split up into 4 specific quarters. Like. That's the only one where it's like a smooth transition. Everything else is just like because we had the intermission in the middle.
Oh, which I love the intermission, dude. I love that like it's still on there, even though it's like you don't need an intermission nowadays for a 2.5 hour movie.
Right. Yeah, dude. I have the Blu-ray of it, and
same thing.
Intermission's still on there.
Yeah, I love that they keep it in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's super cool. You know what else does that? The Hateful Eight.
That's right. Which I actually just watched recently for the other podcast, for the Netflix 500.
So when you watch the Hateful Eight, just out of curiosity, you watched the 4-part Netflix.
I watched both. So yeah, for the Netflix 500, we actually just covered a Hateful Eight along with the Outlaw King and the Platform. So that should be out already. No, it will be out on Monday. So
little treat.
Will it be out on Monday? No, it's gonna. I don't know. I think it's coming out in Monday.
Been released this previous
Either
Monday,
that or it's coming out on Monday. I can't remember right now. I
Monday.
can't think straight right now.
We're either in between. We're in between Mondays.
Yeah.
It's either last Monday or upcoming Monday. But my question. So I watched. So I've seen all 3 versions.
Oh
of it.
Wait, there's 3 versions.
So he did the original version.
Yeah. Okay.
That was.
The theatrical cut,
the 70 millimeter. Yep. No, the 70 millimeter version. So that I watched. Then I watched the extended version
on Netflix.
That was like, no. Before it was on Netflix, the extended version, and then Netflix released it. So the 2 full versions had the intermission, but because Netflix is in 4 pieces,
there's no intermission.
It didn't really have it. But now that we're talking about it, though, the Hateful Eight's actually kind of set up kind of the same way, like, which is a Tarantino-esque thing already to break the films down into chapters like that. But like,
I watched it last week, so if I remember correctly, there's either 5 or 6 chapters in Hateful Eight, so it's a little bit more. Some of the chapters are smaller than because in 2001, more or less, all of the chapters are pretty close in time,
equal in time.
I think the last chapter is a little shorter, and the Dawn of Man chapter is maybe a little longer than the last chapter, but it's also shorter than the middle 2. But the middle 2 are pretty close.
Yeah, the first and last chapters have completely no dialogue.
That's right. Yeah.
Hey, so I was the amount of stuff that they like filmed and produced for this?
No.
200 times the length of the film.
Oh my God.
The amount of cached footage and like conceptual work
nuts.
that they have.
But it makes sense,
times this
especially for that whole portal scene. There's probably a lot of work that went done into that. Which also, first of all, I understand how they did some of the more galaxy look of the portal feel. because I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, reading that it was done with like ink blobs and things like that in water.
Yeah, I was
thinking
that.
Black background, which is incredible and is very ingenuitive. And I think from what I remember reading, Kubrick actually got that off of a photographer, and he saw that work and he wanted to do something similar for the video. Nowadays, like, you can do that in your kitchen. You know what I mean?
Right.
With a good camera, or not even a great camera, really, if you really wanted to get into it. But so I understand how he did that, but I was like very impressed with some of the more graphical stuff in that portal scene.
Digital.
I have no clue how they did that. I can fathom a way to do it today, but back then with film, I don't know. I have no clue. I'm coming up short.
It looked so good too.
So good, yeah. Crisp.
Like, yeah, really good.
Really, really good, yeah.
Crazy.
It's funny, since we're talking about the portal scene, we've talked about it multiple times throughout this, but so as I said in the beginning, this was kind of like going to be a critical disaster, or like they were not going to make the money back. Right. From the first week when it was released. They were like, the studio actually was planning on not marketing anymore and pulling it from theaters. And some theaters in major cities, midnight theaters especially, like that were just open past midnight, they were begging the studio not to pull it out because they were getting so many people on psychedelic drugs coming into this movie specifically for that scene. Like, they would apparently, like, people would even time it out when to take the drugs throughout the film so that they could like peak doing that scene.
Makes total sense.
It's incredible. So like it became a critical success, and it became not a critical success, I guess. It did get a lot of really good critics, like a lot of really good critical feedback, but it made its money back a lot because of what was going on in the 60s back then.
Yeah, I
with
bet.
The drug revolution.
I bet. Yeah, so there's so many people out there who say that this is like one of the most boring movies of all time. Right.
I've heard that so many times.
I have never once felt that in my life.
I think I might have not liked it very much the first time. I think I might have been like, why is this film so hyped up? But I was also very young. But
there's so much visually.
It's funny because this is one of those movies that I'm sure if you look up like most boring movie lists of all time, you know what I mean? Like a list of like the most boring movies of all time. I'm sure this movie probably ranks up pretty high on that list because of you know, the way the people that make those lists are probably don't like this movie. But this, on the other hand, this movie is one of the most critically acclaimed films of all time. Like, it's constantly up at the top of the best films of all time, consistently.
Yeah. Maybe it just wasn't made for the average American.
Whoa, dude, hold on. I don't know if you know this, but we live in America, so I don't want to.
Yeah, but we're far above average.
Listen, I actually discovered this week that we have a big amount of I think it's like a 3% viewership and listenership in the UK, so I guess we're just catering to them now. Yep.
This episode is specifically to our friends in Europe. Oh man.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Dude, it's crazy. And it's crazy to see this. Like I said, it holds up today, but to see this and see the inspiration that modern sci-fi takes from movies like this, like you're saying, Ad Astra is this in a way. Like the concepts that we see in that movie are extremely similar to something that we would have seen in 2001. 100%. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's amazing to me that a film like this can inspire so many people to become filmmakers. Because I would probably need like 10 hands to count off the top of my head some of the directors that were inspired by Kubrick and inspired by this film.
Right.
Another thing that really blows my mind is that Kubrick was so ahead of his time as far as some of the themes that he worked into this novel, into this Crazy, actual like story. Like the monolith, like who would have thought? I mean, I'm sure Kubrick wasn't totally sure, but like Kubrick must have had some kind of inkling of a thought that like this like today we all have monoliths in our pockets. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like this is a monolith. Like
it's crazy.
I mean? Like I think there's a lot that goes into that. I think that's why I think the themes of like technological advancement and evolution is so present here. We see that a lot with Hal, which is another thing that I really don't like about 2010. I'm gonna spoil this part for you because I don't think it'll matter, because it didn't really matter to me. I was just kind of like I didn't like it because in 2010 Hal basically gets like a comeback story where it like Earth sends a couple astronauts out to like find Discovery, and they find him and plug Hal back in and realize that Hal's like malfunctioning or whatever, and they have to escape Jupiter's atmosphere, and Hal sacrifices himself for these humans on the other ship to get them out of that atmosphere. And it's like cool, it's endearing, and it's a nice way to complete
that's Hal's true nature though.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like there's nothing inside of the Kubrick film that indicates that at all.
No, that ruins it.
I don't think it's I think it ruins Hal's storyline completely, and what Kubrick was trying to say with it. So, but I'm very, very impressed every time I watch this movie. I think we said it in the last episode. Like this film rewards you for watching it, and every time I watch this film, I'm more and more impressed by what I watch and what Kubrick did back then.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I think about even the smaller design elements, like the text and like instructional like things that are on the ship and stuff like that. The way that's laid out and the way that's designed, dude, that would hold up today.
No, 100%.
Like part of me wants to know if that was like inspiration for like modern like sleek
so
design.
You know what's funny?
What I mean?
I believe I can't remember what company it was. I want to say it was Samsung. I may be mistaken here, but I'm just going to use Samsung as a placeholder because I don't remember what company it was. But Samsung sued Apple because Apple said that their design inspiration for, I think, their first Mac computer or one of the Mac computers was 2001. And Samsung's like, no, you guys got this from us. I don't think it was Samsung. I can't remember what company it was. But I just thought that was really funny. But yeah, 100%. I could totally see like people like Steve Jobs being influenced by this.
Totally.
By the design elements.
When you look at stuff, it's super sleek, super modern.
100%.
Like everything that you'd see in that. Like, dude, another thing we haven't even touched was the actual practical effects of that chamber that they made, that rotating chamber.
I was going to mention that if you weren't going to.
We didn't even get
I was about to
it
mention
yet.
it.
That's so funny. That is a practical effects like
100%.
landmark.
You know what's crazy is that I was watching it and I understand how they did it mentally. Yeah. But as I watch it, I'm like, how did they do this? Because some of the movements that they do, it's like, especially when there's a scene when Frank and Dave are both walking into another part of the Discovery, and it did not make sense to me how they walked off of this platform onto this platform, and they're like going. It didn't like. I was like, this is so confusing. I had to go back and watch it over and over again, and I could not figure it out. I couldn't figure it out. But 100%. The practical effects on this film, I think, have set up some of the biggest films of all time since then. Yeah. The most obvious one being Inception, in my opinion, right? Because of the way they did that rotating hallway and the whole hotel scene. It's very evident that a lot of the influences there came from this film.
Even the concept of being able to,
Right, 100%. But like, I think it goes so much farther than just like this similarity in practical effect. I think it's practical effect as a whole. Like Jurassic Park holds up today the way it does because of the practical effect in that film.
Absolutely.
Which is, I think it's the same thing as this. If Kubrick had done some other kind of special effect work here where it wasn't so practical, maybe it wouldn't have held up as far as like the effects in this film. So it just blows my mind.
It
blows my mind, like the amount, the size of this practical effect. Like he also had to have some like gusto in him because all he had done before this was Strangelove was his biggest hit. So,
yeah, but I mean, it's evident
for
to
a
see
studio
that
to like really believe in him like that.
It's evident to see that his approach to filmmaking was kind of like how Pattinson approaches acting, in the sense of like, I've done this. Now I plan to not do that again. Like I'm moving on to something completely different now.
Yeah.
Which there's a lot of directors of our time
go ahead.
that approach it, and I really appreciate that, the adverse approach of like, okay, I did that, now I'm gonna do it again, but this time I'm gonna make it 10 times better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like,
I agree. What surprises me the most about this film, though, is the fact that it was even done, that it was even made.
Right.
I'm so surprised that the studio would like put money behind this, because I mean it had to have cost a pretty penny to make that whole practical effects setup.
Yeah.
And then all the special effects that went into it, all the film that they used. You said it was 200 times the length of the actual movie.
Yeah, dude, that's like 400.
Film is expensive.
Yeah, that's like 400 hours of.
So like, he had the trust of the studio. I don't know how that happened.
I don't either. Was
Strangelove
Strangelove
I'm glad, because we wouldn't have gotten The Shining.
Right.
Well, I guess it was, but like still, Strangelove is a very strange film, because Strangelove is a satire, and I don't know how. If Strangelove were to come out today, it would be a cult following film. Like, it would not make a lot of success, I don't think. So I don't know how it was as successful as it was back then. And on top of that, I don't know how the studio would give so much money to a film that's supposed to be very serious to somebody who made a satire as like Strangelove was.
Yeah.
So I'm just so surprised that this was made. I'm just very surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. Especially for its time, this was like crazy. And you know, there's that whole theory of like that was the whole concept of what I read. It was like, you know, I kind of went down the theorist rabbit hole of the whole like Apollo moon landing thing, and what they were saying was 200 times the excess footage from this movie, and that's their core foundation of like, that's why the moon landing was fake. Because there's 200 times the amount of footage that they actually needed. So, he was working a side job. Yeah. But
that's why he was that kind of makes sense. We're going down like a conspiracy theory rabbit hole now. It's like the only way he was able to have the money to make this movie was by the government paying for it.
Yeah. Everyone, NASA funded 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh man.
No, it's crazy though. This is on my top 10s list and always will be, I think.
Same.
It's incredible. It's a marvel even today in filmmaking. Like you watch this and you're just blown away by the themes, by the social approach it has, by the emotional feel that you experience, understanding that like that was the grasp of human evolution then, and now we're experiencing like some of these evolutionary themes in life today, you know, like advancement of humanity. Like technology wasn't going anywhere quick in 60s, you know, but now look at it, like we experience something new in technology daily. So it's like the great prophet Stanley Kubrick is just coming in with like full understanding of what artificial intelligence is going to look like in 40 years. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Totally. It's crazy. And also like, AI? What was that even a concept in the 60s?
I don't know.
Do you think people watched the 2001 and go like, yes, we can do that. We can do it.
It's very impressive. It's funny because I've seen this so many times, but even last night after I watched it, I was like getting ready for bed, and I'm sitting there looking at myself in the mirror, brushing my teeth, and I'm just like thinking about all these AI possibilities and like the moral challenges we'll have in the future once like AI can feel and like how if you go back to like the Civil Rights Act, or even like when Black people only had the 3/5 vote, right? Like, so if we had those kind of dilemmas back then, how is this going to be with the future when AI is like thinking for themselves, like, we have the right to vote, why can't we vote?
Right.
We can, we feel, baby.
iRobot,
that kind of stuff. So it's kind of, I just started thinking about that, and I was like, that's what I mean by like this film rewards you.
Yeah.
Like, if you put in the time and you watch this movie, it really gives you something back and makes you think a lot. But yeah, so that's 2001. We can sit here and talk so much more, but we're running out of time.
Yeah.
Next week we're actually talking about Solaris. I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Solaris.
But
Tarkovsky.
Tarkovsky, baby. And I'm very excited about this one as well.
We had a lot of Tarkovsky options because in that kind of like,
that's right,
in that vein, he had a lot of like foundational sci-fi stuff that was coming out.
We were mainly between Stalker and Solaris. But, so we went with Solaris because it's a little bit more sci-fi specific. But I'm really excited for this one.
Too.
I haven't watched this in probably 10 years now, so I'm excited to jump back in.
Yeah,
I may even watch the remake with George Clooney. I think George Clooney's in it, just to like kind of have something to distinguish itself against.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, JWoww here. We hope you enjoyed our thoughts on this quintessential film. There is so much more Brant and I could have said, and we plan on having a more detailed episode in the future whenever we tackle all of Stanley Kubrick's films. Next week, we are taking a look at another highly influential filmmaker's work, Andrei Tarkovsky's 1972 science fiction art film, Solaris. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to keep up with every episode, and follow us on Instagram at 2_35media for extra content on these films and more. See you next week.